We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And
I think it's really cool how all of the adults in the room basically patted Trump on the head, and they told him, like, yeah, man, you go crazy. Don't, like, talk about policy or anything. Just talk about annexing the entire world. Just stir up some, just, you know, draw attention to yourself with increasingly ridiculous, meaningless showboating, you know, attention grabs, while we do all the actual business behind the scenes, you know? It hurts how cartoonish it is. Yeah, I get it. I do, you know, it's a nice ego jump for me personally to, like, you know, look at this and be reminded of how correct I was in my assertion that Donald Trump will basically have nothing to do with Donald Trump's second presidency.
In a single month, small business optimism soared 41 points. It's not a 41. It went up 41 points. And that's the largest in the 39-year history of the group that does it. You know,
where's all his energy got? Dude, he was like crazy senile the entire campaign. Remember his 30-minute dancing to music? He's been cooked for a while now. It just doesn't matter.
And
remember, the reason why attention wasn't paid to it in the campaign is because legacy media was already bought out by the right. Remember all those examples of, like, the New York Times sane-washing him? Where he would say things that sounded objectively insane, and then they would paraphrase him into, like, sane, cohesive arguments, and they would write an article on something like, many are concerned about Donald Trump's bold new plan to, and the bold new plan in question was him drooling into the microphone for 3 minutes. Like, they all knew they were all complicit.
We're being respected again all over the world. The Panama Canal is a disgrace, what took place at the Panama Canal. Jimmy Carter gave it to them for $1. But the deal was that, you know, they have to treat us fairly. They don't treat us fairly. They charge more for our ships than they charge for ships of other countries. They charge more for our Navy than they charge for navies of other countries. They laugh at us because they think we're stupid, but we're not stupid anymore. So the
fascism really is built on, like, the myth of humiliation. The Nazis love this with the JQ and the Treaty of Versailles. Like, you need to always be enraged by your mistreatment. It's a permanent victim complex. You like, the idea of, like, mighty America is being humiliated by Panama. They're laughing at us. Starving children in the Congo, they're laughing at us. They're making a fool out of us with these trade deals. They extract their own water out of the bark of their trees rather than buying it from Nestle. They won't take deals with us. Biden has allowed this to happen. They're laughing at us over there in the Congo. They're making a fool out of us, but not anymore.
The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter...
Oh my fucking God, it just occurred to me. I can't believe we cycled back around to it, but we're unironically doing a Bush-Cheney presidency again, aren't we? Except instead of J.D. Vance being the vice president, it's Elon Musk being the guy. Like, with the person who blusters in public as a cover for the nefarious machinations of the people. I can't believe it. We circled back around. There's like 3 types of American president. We circled back around to the other one.
Giving the Panama Canal to Panama was a very big mistake. We lost 38,000 people.
The Panama Canal shit is wild. Well, it's not based in reality. It's a deliberately ostentatious, meaningless signifier. It is it's a red herring, you know? Like, it doesn't relate to anyone's actual life, their day-to-day experience. It's just a thing to talk about that's loud and abrasive. Yeah, it's a forced narrative. That's a good term for it. Yeah, a manufactured issue, but even more manufactured than the ones usually are. You know what I mean? It doesn't even relate to a modern culture war issue, except for, I guess, like, U.S. hegemony. It doesn't even, like, yeah.
On Ukraine, you said just before it's a lot more complicated now.
Much more complicated. A big part of the problem was Russia for many, many years, long before Putin said you could never have NATO involved with Ukraine. Now, they've said that. That's been, like, written in stone. And somewhere along the line, Biden said, no, they should be able to join NATO. Well, then Russia has somebody right on their doorstep, and I could understand.
No. Oh, man. It is crazy to go like from one breath to another, from like, I am so pro-American hegemony that I want to annex Greenland, Canada, and the Panama Canal. And then in the next breath, you're like, well, Russia asked us to not expand our military alliance over to Ukraine, a position, you know, like, so we can't do that, you know? We can't do that.
And when I heard the way that Biden was negotiating, I said, you're going to end up in a war.
Why not annex Russia? Because Russia is also a hollow country run by oligarchs, and a lot of those oligarchs have ties to American oligarchs. That's it. The only reason why we are pro-Russia and not pro-China, even though both countries are run by oligarchs, is that China's oligarchs are kept under whip and chain by the CCP, and Russia's haven't been. Their oligarchs have been shifty, like, global propagators of far-right politics for decades, whereas the Chinese billionaires are mostly engaged in Chinese business, and the CCP tries to wrangle them into national, like, to the national agenda. That's literally it. If it wasn't for that, we would be doing the same thing with China, and we would just be fear-mongering about North Korea and Iran. Like, the only reason China is our enemy is because they haven't played ball with global capital the same way that Russia has.
If it weren't for me, NATO wouldn't even exist right now, because I raised from countries that weren't paying their bills. At that time, 28 countries, 20 of them were not paying their bills, 21 to be exact. They weren't paying.
He's so back. He's like a source of comfort for me. He's my comfort character, because at least he's funny and personable, unlike the people who actually run the country, who are basically like not human beings, you know? Zuckerberg and Musk are just like empty vessels of capital, you know, that blow with the wind to their interest. At least Trump has some like idiosyncrasies. Well, Musk does too, but most of Musk's idiosyncrasies are being like incredibly cringe. So it's not as endearing.
Europe is in for a tiny fraction of the money that we're in. Now, whether you like that situation or not, Europe is much more affected than the United States.
Why is he talking like a character from the 1920s? He is literally a New Yorker who was born in the 40s. I mean, the man's pretty old.
Billions and billions.
Like he was like a fully grown adult when the Cuban Missile Crisis happened. Not just a fully grown adult. He was like into his adulthood. I mean, it's a lot of legacy here.
More than 140 police officers were injured by rioters on January 6th. Will you pardon anyone who attacked a police officer?
Well, you know, the only one that was killed was a beautiful young lady named Ashley Babbitt.
Incredible.
She was shot for no reason whatsoever.
None.
In
She
fact,
did nothing.
They say that she was trying to hold back the crowd, and the crowd was made up of a lot of different people, so we'll see. But I will tell you this, the person that was killed was Ashley Babbitt. The other thing is, when they talk, you know, there was never charges of insurrection or anything like that. But if there were, this would be the only insurrection in history where people went in as insurrectionists with not one gun. Okay? And let me tell you, the people that you're talking about have a lot of guns in their home for hunting and for shooting and for entertainment, a lot of good reasons.
Remember when Donald Trump specifically asked to not have security scanners to the event on January 6th because he wanted people to bring their guns? It's, again, like, we're entering an era now where if you say true things about the president, the full weight of the federal government will come down on you with a defamation lawsuit. He can lie about literally anything he wants and it doesn't matter.
I wanted to ask you about Ukraine and Putin. How soon do you anticipate going to meet with Putin to discuss the Ukraine situation?
Well, I can't tell you.
Trump already basically admitted to meeting with Putin multiple times prior to him being elected, didn't he? There was was it in the debate with Kamala that he admitted that, or was that in the interview that he did? I forget what specific conversation he had where he admitted that, but he was pretty straightforward about it.
If we were to work under the assumption that you're serious about making Canada a 51st state of the United States, the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada said, under no circumstances will it ever be the 51st state.
Maybe he won't win, but maybe he will. I don't
You would suggest.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
But Sir Lopez, you're considering.
We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada. We lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need the cars. We don't need their lumber. We have massive fields of lumber. We don't need their lumber. We have to unrestrict them because stupid people put, restrictions on, but I can do that with an executive order.
This is what we get an insane amount of lumber from Canada, by the way. We get a lot of stuff in general from Canada. It is remarkable how, this is how you run the grift of pretending to be a, protectionist, nationalist, close your borders, isolationist type, while also being utterly dependent on global capital, which is you're simultaneously yeah, we don't need Canada. We don't need to trade with them. It's bad when we trade with them somehow, but also we should annex them because we want their stuff.
That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve. Canada wouldn't be able to function if we didn't take that 20% of our car market. Didn't
Trump create a historic increase in the deficit thanks to his tax cut? Yeah, but it's not like it matters. It doesn't matter. The reality doesn't matter. The only actual economic pressures we're going to be subjected to are the only social forces that will develop are the ones that are allowed to develop in the service of capital, and the only material forces that will develop are the ones that further the capital acquisition of, the bourgeoisie. That's it. Will things go more anti-woke? Sure, to the extent that it's profitable. Will, what economic measures will develop? Well, the ones that make more money for a small number of people. That's it. Everything else is a distraction.
So I said to him, well, why are we doing it? He said, I don't really know. He was unable to answer the question, but I can answer it. We're doing it because of habit, and we're doing it because we like our neighbors, and we've been good neighbors. But we can't do it forever, and it's a tremendous amount of money.
Canada destroyed Trump in the last trade war. He's going to get spanked again. I don't even know if there's going to be a trade war. I genuinely think that they're just giving Trump the go-ahead on saying literally anything that he wants at these press conferences, because the only actual changes that are going to happen, the only meaningful ones, are just going to be austerity politics, a rolling back of worker protections. You're probably going to see people working younger and younger, the wealth gap increasing more and more, that kind of stuff, I genuinely feel like all of this is a manufactured issue.